Hey, how are you doing? Where are you now? It had been a week since my husband and in-laws moved without saying a word to me. In such a situation, I received a phone call. Why do I have to tell you that? You're not smart. Why would you say that? You're really a noisy woman. I'll forgive you if you apologize. Moreover, if you do the housework, I might even give you a spare key. How about that? It's a nice proposal, isn't it? I naturally sighed at such an absurd proposal. Who do you think will do such a thing? What is someone incompetent like you talking about? Incompetent? Isn't that about yourselves? What? How dare you? I could tell my husband was talking to someone else on the phone. Huh? Oh, I see. That person was probably. Mom says she wants to talk. Before I could agree, it switched to my mother-in-law. Hello, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you, but are you still alive? What are you talking about? Because you're jobless now, right? I'm listening carefully. You've been deceiving me, haven't you? What a disgraceful woman. My husband must have lied to his mother to maintain his dignity. Which one of us is more disgraceful? What should I do? Why are you silent? Say something. At that comment made my anger rapidly grew. Although it's rough, I decided to tell the truth to this ignorant old lady on the other end of the phone. The truth about my husband. You seem to be misunderstanding something. It's not me who was fired. Are you trying to add shame on top of shame? Isn't it you who should be embarrassed? What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. My mother-in-law seemed unable to hide her anger. I'm not joking. In fact, our comfortable life so far is thanks to me. Stop it. She was more stubborn than I thought, and it seemed she wouldn't understand. It seemed unlikely she would accept the truth as it was. At that moment, I made a decision. If that's the case, I'll divorce my incompetent, jobless husband. What? Do you really understand what you're saying? If you do that, you're the one who will suffer. Don't worry. You should be the ones worried. This is going nowhere. Before you hang up, why don't you verify that he was fired? After saying that, the call ended. About 5 minutes later, my husband called again, probably after hearing about it from his mother. However, I did not respond to the phone. From then on, they all will have to overcome even more challenges. And I waited for the right moment. Whether it worked or not, what my husband and his parents faced was not just simple hardship. My name is Anna. My siblings run a company inherited from our grandfather. My brother Peter is the president, and my sister Mandy is involved as a director. I myself manage several apartments inherited from my father. The rental income alone was enough to support myself. I met my husband, Kevin, when I was 33 years old. The connection was made through my sister, Mandy. Cess, isn't it about time you got married? How while of a sudden? Considering your age, I think it's about time. How can I get married without having a partner first? I'll take care of that. And a week later, my sister introduced me to Kevin, a friend from her college days. My first impression of him was that of a handsome young man with a neat appearance. Being work-focused all my life, I was at a loss for what to talk about. Well, you two have fun then. What, Mandy? Wait. My sister left with a laugh. And so, the two of us were left alone. Being a friend of my sister, he was younger than me. As the elder, I felt I had to act properly. Shall we go? Yes. Both of us, holding our nervousness, went to the first restaurant we saw. We ordered alcohol and immediately emptied our glasses. That helped us start to relax. I'm sorry about tonight. Mandy was a bit presumptuous. Don't worry about it. Honestly, I was looking forward to meeting you. Really? To tell you the truth, Mandy has been talking about you. I've been hearing about you since our university days. That girl. According to Kevin, Mandy had always spoken highly of me. After spending about 2 hours together, the evening came to an end. Then, see you again. Wait a minute. If you don't mind, can we exchange contact information? Oh, right. We haven't done that yet. And so we exchanged contact information and started to go on dates frequently. So, when are you planning to get married, sis? Not anytime soon. Really? How long have you two been seeing each other? Well, about 6 months. Then it should be fine, shouldn't it? Don't talk about it as if it's someone else's business. In fact, a week after being introduced by Mandy, Kevin confessed his feelings to me. I was surprised, but it wasn't unpleasant. And I accepted his confession. 6 months passed. Although I had a desire to get married, I hesitated to bring it up. Being older, I worried whether bringing up the topic would be too much pressure. On a certain day, while pondering these thoughts, I want to talk about something important today. Understood. Let's meet at our usual place after work. See you then. That call came during my lunch break, and I couldn't concentrate on my afternoon tasks. Naturally, that was the expected reaction. It's impossible to remain indifferent to such a conversation. That day, he proposed to me. I was somewhat prepared, but being asked to consider marriage made me question if I was the right person. So, what's your answer, Anna? I'll say yes. However, what followed wasn't straightforward. Next, we had to greet each other's families. My parents warmly accepted our marriage. Next was meeting Kevin's parents. But what should we do about greeting Kevin's family? About that. Yes, Kevin seemed somewhat downhearted, as if he didn't want to go there. There's something I need to tell you. Actually, I want to keep your job a secret. Why is that? My father doesn't mind, but my mom. According to Kevin, his mother-in-law had an unusually strong sense of pride and wouldn't accept a wife earning more than her husband. It seems that his late grandmother was also like that, and she firmly inherited that mindset. So please, I'd appreciate it if you could manage the conversation well. Kevin requested that from me. Faced with such a request, I couldn't refuse, but I was still worried. I understand keeping it a secret, but can we keep hiding it forever? I think it'll be okay. He didn't provide details at the time, but I had no choice but to trust his words. And we scheduled a visit to my in-laws' house a week later. Aren't you worried? A bit nervous, yes. I'll be by your side. And remember what we planned. Got it. When the doorbell rang, my mother-in-law greeted us. Good of you to come. Please come in. Thank you. As we were led into the living room where my father-in-law was sitting. Glad you could make it. Have a seat. Thank you. I caught a glimpse of Kevin's tension at that moment. We came to talk about something special. We're considering getting married together. Is that so? Anna, what do you do for a living? As expected, the question came. This inquiry was anticipated. According to our plan, I was to say that I work in an administrative position through a temp agency. In reality, it wasn't a complete lie, as I occasionally help out at my brother's company. That decision was made for such reasons. I'm currently working in an administrative role. I see. What do you think, Dad? If it's an administrative job, there shouldn't be a problem. Then it's okay to get married, right? Yes, I have no objections. Thank you. While exchanging conversations, I excused myself to the bathroom halfway through. And on my way back to the living room. Wait a moment. I was approached by my mother-in-law. Yes, what is it? It was the moment I had hoped to avoid. What is that? Which one? That expensive-looking item you're wearing. She was pointing at the necklace I was wearing. Oh, this is. As you'll be a wife from now on, such things are unnecessary. Take it off here. Excuse me? Shall I help you? My mother-in-law tried to forcefully remove my necklace. No, I can take it off myself. Saying so, I removed the necklace. This necklace was originally a gift from Kevin for my birthday. I tried to explain this several times, but it seemed to my mother-in-law like nothing but excuses. Also, change that outfit. Too much leg exposure. It's unpleasant. Why must I be criticized like this? As I was confused, Kevin came and asked what was happening. What's going on? It just took a bit longer. I'll be back soon. Okay, got it. My mother-in-law cut off my response. Remember what I just said. Don't forget it. I'll come by to check occasionally. Your response? Yay, yes, I understand. I couldn't refuse. I was just exhausted from being compliant. Though I returned to the living room, I couldn't bring myself to say anything. I wanted to avoid saying anything unnecessary and being criticized again. Something happened? No, nothing. I blamed someone in my mind for how I felt, but I couldn't hold Kevin responsible. All I felt was a desire to leave this place as soon as possible. I don't remember the details of the conversation that followed. Somehow, we reached an agreement and returned to Kevin's house. First, let's start by finding a place to live together. Yes, that sounds good. We visited various properties together, but I couldn't forget the words of my mother-in-law. Before I knew it, the property was contracted in my name. At that time, I never thought this would become a big problem later on. Thus, we got married and became a couple. However, the smooth marriage life was only at the beginning. Anyway, let's keep this from my mom going forward. Can this really work out? It'll be fine. Kevin's baseless confidence only fueled my anxiety. And that anxiety became reality. As much as possible, we tried to avoid contact with my mother-in-law, but one day, a month after getting married, I came home from work to an unexpected visit from her. Mother, why are you here? Just came to see how you two are doing. But what were you doing at this late hour? I was at work. You're supposed to be in an administrative job, aren't you? Yet, you come home this late. I looked at Kevin and he gestured for me to deny it. It seemed he meant to keep this fact hidden. There was a bit of overtime today. Making excuses. You were actually out having fun, weren't you? I wasn't out having fun. Really? Mom, that's enough. But anyway, we're doing fine without any problems. With those words, my mother-in-law seemed convinced and left without further comment. I'm sorry. I didn't expect my mom to come. Maybe we should tell her the truth? It's okay. Leave it to me. But this means we're continuing with the lie. It's fine like this. Don't make me repeat myself. Was it necessary for me to be told this? Despite being newly married, my trust in Kevin began to waver. However, there was one good thing. Kevin's approach worked, and the visits from my mother-in-law stopped. At least, it was a temporary relief. Until I noticed something suspicious one day at noon. Huh? Why are Kevin's shoes here? Hesitantly, I stepped inside. At that moment, I saw Kevin lounging on the sofa, sipping on alcohol. What are you doing? Oops, surprised, he dropped a beer can he was holding onto the floor. Inna, why are you here? I came back to pick up something I forgot. What happened to work? I wasn't feeling well, so I came home early. I see, but you're drinking, so you must have recovered? Well, they say alcohol is a cure-all. But it looks like you've had quite a bit? There were already 6 empty beer cans lined up on the table. Moderation is key, right? I think drinking too much isn't good. Kevin didn't respond. I remembered the document I had forgotten and headed to the bedroom. Glancing at the living room casually, I saw Kevin, despite my caution, now drinking whiskey. Try to cut back a little. How? Aren't you running out of time? That's right. I'll hear the details when I get back. Take care. Actually, I wanted to ask in detail right there, but as Kevin said, I was running out of time. Is something bothering you? No, not really. My siblings said you seemed a bit down. Sorry, it's really nothing. Are you in any trouble, Kevin? Does it seem that way? Kind of. It's the only thing I could think of. I was at a loss for words. First, I'll focus on work. Yeah, that's probably best. After work, I met up with my siblings to talk about the recent events then. So, what's specifically bothering you? Well, actually, Don't worry, this stays between us, so feel free to open up. Thanks. I opened up to my siblings about the situation with my mother-in-law and Kevin's recent behavior. That's unexpected. What? Sorry, I can't believe it. I didn't think it was that serious. It's not your fault, Mandy. But what will you do now? Should I say something? That might make things worse. Didn't we promise to keep it a secret? Yeah, but knowing they were so considerate warmed my heart. First, I'll try to talk directly to the involved parties. That sounds right. We're here to support you whenever you need. I appreciate it, thank you. After that exchange, I returned home, but I couldn't find Kevin anywhere. All the alcohol was neatly cleaned up. Where could he have gone? I tried to contact him, but there was no response. Kevin returned the next morning. Where were you? Actually, I went to my parents' house. My mom called me over suddenly, Kevin said, laughing. What's so funny? Huh? Not answering your phone and being at your parents' house, really? Couldn't you have at least contacted me? Why would you say something like that? Why don't you ask my mom? Don't say such ridiculous things. With work looming, I hurriedly left the house. As soon as I got to work, I received a call from my mother-in-law. Yes, hello? What have you done? I'm not sure what you're referring to. I heard you doubted Kevin. Since I couldn't reach him, I was just to get so upset over such a trivial matter. You're really narrow-minded. The call continued with my mother-in-law showering me with insults. Eventually, she even called me incompetent. I couldn't bear it any longer and ended up retorting. There's no reason for me to be criticized like this. What are you talking about? So, please, stop this pointless conversation. I have work waiting for me. I immediately hung up the phone and took a deep breath. My patience paid off, and I felt a pleasant sense of release. Returning home after a day's work and feeling a sense of accomplishment, I was greeted with criticism by Kevin. I heard you said something terrible to my mom? I didn't say anything terrible. I just stated the obvious. That's not a joke. Why do you belittle people's parents like that? If you didn't act suspiciously, there wouldn't be any problem in the first place, would there? Fine. If you're going to say that, I have my own plan. Afterward, Kevin made a call as if he was enjoying something. Once the call ended, he announced, "Look forward to it." The change came 3 days later. What is this? I was utterly stunned as boxes piled up in the room. Confused and bewildered, Kevin returned with my in-laws. Seeing me, Kevin said with a laugh, "Why such a face? Didn't I tell you to look forward to it? Let's live together from now on." At that moment, everything clicked. Kevin had arranged for us to live together behind my back. That call was indicating his plan. Isn't this method too authoritarian? Why would you think that? Kevin proposed this cohabitation thinking of us. He's really considerate. But there are no available rooms. That's strange. Kevin said there were 2 empty rooms. Those 2 empty rooms were reserved for future children, not for living with my in-laws. But with their belongings already moved in, there was nothing I could do. From that day on, my life changed drastically. Is breakfast ready? We don't prepare it so early in our house. That doesn't concern us. From that day, I started waking up at 4 a.m., and that was just the beginning. Eventually, a specific event led me to vet revenge against Kevin and his family. House chores naturally fell to me, not by choice, but because they would be neglected otherwise. Feeling this situation was unsustainable, I consulted with my siblings again. What's going on? That's unbelievable. Don't worry, leave it to us. My siblings rushed from their workplace directly to our house. Their purpose was to speak directly to Kevin and his parents. Oh, Peter and Mandy too, what brings you here? We heard you've been quite freewheeling. That's not true. Really? Deciding to live together without asking and dumping all household chores on Anna? That's a misunderstanding. There might have been a slight difference in perception, but I'll resolve this issue. I'll explain to my parents. So, it's like that. Is this matter settled then? Despite relying on my siblings, I didn't want to burden them further. It's fine. All right, then we're counting on you. That day, my in-laws were out, and it's unclear how the situation would have unfolded had they been home. Really unnecessary. If you had acted properly from the start, we wouldn't be in this situation. Relying on your siblings, aren't you ashamed? As Kevin and I were arguing, my in-laws returned. Why are you talking so loudly? The whole neighborhood can hear you. Actually, Anna reported us to her siblings. Reported? She's making us out to be problematic. A wife doing such a thing. But the problem originates from you. Forcing cohabitation and dumping chores on me, right? That's natural and there's no problem at all. It seems you need to be educated. At that moment, Kevin seemed to be contemplating something. Causing more trouble would be a hassle. I've got a good idea. After he whispered something to my mother-in-law, she said, "That's a good idea. Your brothers run a company, right?" "Yes, what about it?" "What if disgraceful rumors about that company were to spread? In the worst case, the company might not survive. What are you planning to do?" "Something like this." Kevin then showed me his smartphone screen. On the screen, there were baseless allegations about my brother's company. "If you listen to us, we'll leave this information as it is. But if you pull another stunt, you're going to make this public?" "Exactly. Understand this and don't repeat such actions." It was clearly a threat. To protect my siblings' safety, I had no choice but to comply with their demands. However, Kevin's actions went beyond mere threats. One day, when my mother-in-law was absent, the truth was revealed. "You must have noticed, but I've quit my job." "Is that really a path you chose yourself?" "Why do you ask that?" "Just curious." "It's not important anyway." "Actually, I was fired." "What caused it?" "Let's not dwell on the details. There were various issues." I felt I had learned something significant from his answer. "But don't ever mention this to my parents." "Why not?" "You should understand why." "What's the plan going forward?" Kevin just fell silent. "No choice, I have to handle it. As usual." "You might have forgotten, but I'm the one paying the rent and living expenses. Just don't do anything unnecessary." Half a year passed, and I had become nothing but a servant to Kevin and his family. I could only despair about when this situation would end. That day, I had an important meeting, so I headed to my brother's workplace. The meeting lasted late into the night, and I didn't get home until after 8 p.m. As soon as I arrived, I immediately noticed something was wrong. Everything was too quiet. The moment I stepped inside, I was struck silent by the scene before me. It was evident the house was empty. Checking room by room, all our belongings were gone. I collapsed on the spot. I immediately called my siblings. "Is something wrong? I need you to come to my house right away." "Understood." "I'm on my way." 30 minutes later, my brother and sister arrived. "What in the world happened?" "Nothing's left. It seems everyone decided to move out without me knowing." "How did it come to this?" "What's that?" "Did you find something?" "Yes, something's on the table." "Really?" What my brother found seemed to be a note left by Kevin. The note read, "For us, you are no longer necessary. Hence, we've decided to move. We've taken the money in the dresser with gratitude." The money in the dresser. Rushing to check the bedroom dresser, the money I had hidden was all gone. It's gone. Everything's been taken. About $10,000 was missing. I made a mistake. I never thought the hiding spot would be discovered. What's our next step? Faced with that question from my brother, I had no immediate answer. But my sister's remark provided a new perspective. "But why such actions? What benefit does this bring?" "What do you mean?" "This situation essentially forces a divorce, doesn't it?" "That's it." "Exactly. Huh? Thank you. Huh? Oh, sure. With Kevin and my in-laws gone, this situation turned into a significant turning point for me. Why are you so pleased? It's kind of scary. Can we talk for a bit? So, I began to share my plans for the future with them. The details concern me, but if you have decided on this, Anna, I think it's fine. It's odd for me to say this since I introduced Kevin, but I want you to go ahead with all your might. At that point, I avoided contacting them directly. Considering their nature, I expected some form of communication from them. So, I adopted a wait-and-see approach. A week after they left, "Hey, have you been well?" As expected, I received a call from Kevin. "Hey, how are you doing? Where are you now?" It had been a week since my husband and in-laws moved without telling me a word. In such a situation, I received a phone call. Huh? Why do I have to tell you that? You're not smart. Why would you say that? You're really a noisy woman. I'll forgive you if you apologize. Moreover, if you do the housework, I might even give you a spare key. How about that? It's a nice proposal, isn't it? I naturally sighed at such an absurd proposal. Who do you think will do such a thing? What is someone incompetent like you talking about? Incompetent? Isn't that about yourselves? What? How dare you? I could tell my husband was talking to someone else on the phone. Huh? Oh, I see. That person was probably. Mom says she wants to talk. Before I could agree, my mother-in-law started speaking. Hello, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you, but... Are you still alive? Huh, what are you talking about? Because you're jobless now, right? You've been deceiving me, haven't you? What a disgraceful woman. My husband must have lied to his mother to maintain his dignity. Which one of us is more disgraceful? What should I do? Why are you silent? Say something. At that comment, my anger rapidly grew. Although it's rough, I decided to tell the truth to this ignorant old lady on the other end of the phone. The truth about my husband. You seem to be misunderstanding something. It's not me who was fired. Are you trying to add shame on top of shame? Isn't it you who should be embarrassed? What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. My mother-in-law seemed unable to hide her anger. I'm not joking. In fact, our comfortable life so far is thanks to me. Stop it. She was more stubborn than I thought, and it seemed she wouldn't understand. It seemed unlikely she would accept the truth as it was. At that moment, I made a decision. If that's the case, I'll divorce my incompetent, jobless husband. Huh? Do you really understand what you're saying? If you do that, you're the one who will suffer. Don't worry. You should be the ones worried. This is going nowhere. Before you hang up, why don't you verify that he was fired? After saying that, the call ended. About 5 minutes later, my husband called again, probably after hearing about it from his mother. However, I did not respond to the phone. From then on, they all will have to overcome even more challenges. And I waited for the right moment. Whether it worked or not, what my husband and his parents faced was not just simple hardship. A month passed, and I received another call from Kevin. Needless to say, I had been making various preparations during that month. There's nothing to talk about. Wait a minute, can't we live together? Why? Why, you ask? Let me guess. It's surely about money, right? Absolutely not. It's your own responsibility for leaving. Well, good luck. Don't say that. We're still a couple. You've heard from your mother, right? I intend to divorce you. What? Anyway, that's the situation. Don't contact me anymore. I thought it was over, but it wasn't that simple. The next day, Kevin came to my house with his parents. Back again? That's not all. I've heard everything from Kevin. And what about it? I'm truly sorry. Hey, Kevin, apologize too. I'm really sorry. Can we start over from the beginning? As if there's such a convenient story. I understand that. Still, I'm asking. How foolish. No matter how much they apologize, I have no intention of forgiving. I'm sorry, but I can't. Please leave. Now we won't be able to make a living. But you took the money from the house, right? Don't tell me you've spent it all gone due to the move and such. I could only laugh. I have something for you. Just a moment. How what? I went to the living room, picked something up, and came back to the entrance. Here, take this. What I handed to Kevin was a divorce application. This is, as you can see, it's a divorce application. There's no way this will go through. While saying that, Kevin tore it up. Do you understand what you're doing, Kevin? A divorce is out of the question. Well, that's one option. I was planning to consult a lawyer anyway. Can you leave now? The conversation isn't over. Either way, we can't live together if you keep making a scene. Let's send it here for today. Wait a minute. Urged by his parents, Kevin left. I immediately went to consult a lawyer introduced by my brother. There were still necessary steps to conclude this. I'm really grateful. Thank you. So, is there no problem anymore? No. It's safer to proceed with the divorce through a lawyer. But I have a request. If there's anything I can do, just ask. Actually, afterward, I asked my brother to help me find a new place to live. I heard one of his friends was in real estate. I quickly completed the contract for the new place and finished moving. Naturally, I didn't contact Kevin at all. There was no need to, after all. Once this situation arose, it was inevitable that Kevin would contact me. Did you go to the house? Where are you now? There's no reason for me to tell you. I had Mandy inquire about Kevin and his family's situation. They were still unemployed and living with his parents. This situation forced his parents to start looking for work. But I couldn't imagine that stubborn mother-in-law actually working. Also, I heard you still haven't found any job. Why would you? I won't say. What? Also, tell your mother to keep at it. Well, goodbye. Kevin and his family were facing even more challenging times ahead. As for myself, I was enjoying a free life in my new home. Moreover, our family has grown. I started keeping a chihuahua, something I've longed for. For me, this small family is enough. From now on, I will spend my time with this beloved dog. When I got home from work, my sister-in-law was once again squatting at our place. After her divorce, she came back to her parents' home and seemed to want to live with us permanently. He said he bought the house. My husband and I have been escalating our arguments over the issue with my sister-in-law. In front of her, my husband declared as if he was boasting, I bought this house. It's my right to decide who lives here. This house was inherited from my father. I was dumbfounded and at a loss for words at the sight of my sister-in-law smirking triumphantly. Furthermore, my husband has even brought his parents into this, making me out to be the villain. I can't stay silent in this situation. I'll corner them all, including my sister-in-law. My name is Jane Muller. I am 35 years old and work for an IT company. I have been married to David for 4 years. My mother passed away 10 years ago, and my father 5 years ago. My father always said, this house is a precious place filled with family memories. After I'm gone, I want Jane to use it freely with her spouse. To that, I responded, don't say such ominous things. I'd rather we all live here together. Haha, that's true. I'd be even happier with grandchildren. Yeah, that's a story for the future. Without you around, I can't even show your grandchildren's faces. Haha, exactly. So, I have to stay healthy for at least another 20 years. Right? That's the spirit. My father was always the picture of health. However, I never dreamed he would leave this world so soon, stricken by cancer. The hardest part was that he never told me about his condition until it was too late to do anything. When he finally said, actually, I'm in the hospital. I deeply regretted not doubting my belief that my father could never fall ill. After my father's funeral, my then fiance David said, I'll support you, so don't worry. I'll always be by your side, Jane. David, both my parents are gone now. That's why I'm here. I'll definitely protect you, Jane. I'll be by your side with all my might. Thank you, David. Having you by my side really saves me. I feel the same. Let's be happy together from now on. It was his support that allowed me to face forward without despair, even after my father's death. Because of David, I can now lead a happy life. Later, we got married and inherited the house from my late father, starting a new life in this house. Soon after realizing his illness, my father had the house renovated. As a result, our home was reborn into a space as comfortable as if it were brand new. A few months after moving in, we were blessed with our daughter, Mary, and about a year later, she was born. Now, Mary is 2 years old, enjoying her first rebellious phase to the fullest. Still, the days spent with my family in this house are irreplaceable. One day, after working late, I returned home to hear cheerful voices leaking from the living room. It was clear that my husband was talking to someone other than our daughter. As I stepped into the living room and quietly opened the door, there was my sister-in-law, Alyssa. Alyssa, why are you here? Ah, Jane, long time no see. Long time no see. What about your husband? And your daughter? Actually, I got divorced. I just told my brother about it. You got divorced? Yes, my ex-husband has custody of our daughter. So I had nowhere to go. I see. That stuff. I couldn't hide my inner turmoil upon hearing Alyssa's confession about her divorce. However, I managed to maintain my composure and show a smile. That night, as I began preparing dinner, David and Alyssa were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't offer to help. Even if they didn't help me, I couldn't forgive them for neglecting our daughter, Mary, who was absorbed in playing with blocks alone. It was hard for me to see her like that, so I gave David a stern look. David, could you please look after Mary for a bit? She's playing right now, so it's fine, isn't it? That's not the point. Mary looks lonely. Just stay with her until dinner is ready. But I'm catching up with Alyssa after a long time. You can talk while playing with Mary, can't you? Alright, alright. I'll watch her, okay. David clearly looked annoyed and even clicked his tongue. Alyssa, who was watching this, laughed and said, "Poor brother, scared of his wife." The interaction between my disgruntled husband and his sister trying to soothe him only added to my irritation. Why does it have to be like this? For me, already tired, this was the last thing I needed. Taking care of children is a parent's responsibility. While I understand being happy about reuniting with his sister, there's no need for David to be so cold towards our daughter. Additionally, I'm disappointed in David's attitude, saying he'll watch her but actually ignoring Mary to talk with Alyssa. Mary, feeling particularly lonely, wouldn't leave my side while I was cooking. Because of David and Alyssa loudly drinking together, Mary couldn't fall asleep until late at night. After Alyssa left, David started drinking alone again. At that moment, I unleashed my day's frustrations on him. David, what was with your behavior today? Huh? What's up all of a sudden? I'm just having a good time drinking. You've been drinking all day. Your noise made Mary go to bed late, you know? Yeah, my bad. Happy if I apologize? What's with that attitude? Not even cleaning up after drinking, just pushing your own convenience. I'm sick of this. I earn the money, so don't complain. At that moment, David threw the beer can he was holding towards me. The contents scattered over my head and dripped onto the floor. We've had arguments before, but it had never gone that far. I was frozen on the spot by his sudden action. That night, we went to sleep without exchanging a single word. The next morning, he was still in a bad mood. I couldn't leave things as they were, considering our child. I wanted to repair our relationship quickly. Such thoughts crossed my mind on my way home from work. However, the moment I stepped into the house, any thoughts of reconciliation vanished. Incredibly, Alyssa was at our house again. As usual, Mary was left alone, looking bored watching TV. Seeing this, I couldn't help but raise my voice. David, what is this? Why are you neglecting Mary again? Tit, not this again. It's fine, she's not crying. That's not the point. More importantly, there's something I want to discuss. Something you want to discuss. Interrupting me, David dramatically coughed and then exchanged glances with Alyssa before starting to speak again. Starting next month, Alyssa will be living here. Can you give up your room for her? Huh? Wait, what are you saying? Alyssa's apartment lease is up at the end of this month. She's divorced and single now, and she was a housewife with no income. That's pitiful, isn't it? I can't just agree to something so sudden. And why do I have to give up my room? If it's really necessary, why not give up your room? I'm using my room. You and Mary can sleep together, right? What? I was so shocked by my husband's unreasonable demands that I couldn't say anything. As I remained silent, David continued without paying any mind. Alyssa is struggling with money right now. As her brother, I want to take care of her in this house until she stabilizes. Can you understand that? But still, why do I have to give up my room? Why are you making such a big deal out of this? Can't you give up a room for your sister-in-law? That's so selfish. You're not considering me or Mary's feelings at all. Either way, it's already decided. If you oppose any further, I'll kick you out of this house. Kick me out. I bought this house. It's my right to decide who lives here. He said he bought the house. This house was inherited from my father. It's not up to my husband to decide who lives in the house, but me, the owner. I spoke quietly, trying not to scare my daughter while holding back my anger. Don't say things like that. This house was inherited from my father. Haha, that doesn't matter. This is my house that I bought. I decide who lives here. What are you talking about? Are you really okay with this? Being kicked out will have a big impact on our relationship, you know? Next to my smug husband, my sister-in-law was also smirking unpleasantly. It seemed she truly believed my husband's claim that said, "This is my house," and intended to stay here for good. Normally, our bedroom was a space for my husband and me to share, but that night, my sister-in-law took over the bed. Unable to bring myself to sleep in the same room as my husband, I reluctantly slept on my daughter's small blanket, with my body hanging off. When I woke up the next morning, I heard noises of things being moved in the hallway. It was my husband and sister-in-law moving my belongings out of my room without permission. When I confronted them, my anger was beyond control. Hey, what are you doing with my stuff without asking? Oh, you're awake? Good, help us out. Stop it. Don't move my things without permission. Don't you understand your position yet? You can stay here because of me. Stop complaining and help us. My parents are coming soon. What? Saying that, my husband whispered quietly in my ear, "Don't bring our domestic issues outside. If this turns into a big problem, I'll seriously consider a divorce." Right after those words, the doorbell rang. Waiting at the entrance were my in-laws. I didn't have a deep bond with my in-laws but had maintained a proper relationship. Despite that, they were looking at me very sternly now. "We're coming in. We heard you've been causing trouble for David, right? This is the house David bought, isn't it? Wait a minute, please." I hurriedly stood in front of my in-laws. "Father, mother, what are you talking about? I've had enough. Why won't you help when the family is in trouble?" Exactly. It's David's house since he bought it. It's up to David whether Alyssa lives here or not. And yet you? Apparently, my husband also lied to his parents, claiming he bought the house, and they believed it. Seeing me overwhelmed, my husband and sister-in-law wore smug, unsettling smiles. Then, after gathering everyone in the living room, my husband pressed me for a decision. Have you made up your mind? Will you let Alyssa live here, or will you and Mary leave? The choice is yours. Are you really serious about this? I asked, and he answered with conviction. Of course. This is my house. Oh, and by the way, would you consider my parents moving in here too? I couldn't hide my surprise at his statement and let out, "What? The family home is getting old, so how about we use Mary's room for my parents? That way, the whole family can live together again." Alyssa and my in-laws voiced their bright agreement to this proposal. At that moment, anger boiled within me. They were serious, even planning to take Mary's room. He says, I bought the house. What a ridiculous notion. Deciding it was time to act, I took a deep breath and calmly began to explain to my in-laws. Alyssa, father, mother, it seems there's been a big misunderstanding. This house was actually inherited by me from my father. My in-laws looked surprised at my statement, but Alyssa, who had believed my husband's lies, glared at me angrily. Then, my husband retorted, "What are you talking about? Do you want a divorce? Why do you keep up this falsehood? I understand wanting to save face in front of the family, but it's a nuisance to me." No joke. Then prove it. Prove it? Yes. Show evidence that this house is really yours. You can't, can you? There's no proof that you're the owner of this house. At his sneer, Alyssa chimed in, "Go on, prove it." I stood up and opened a drawer containing documents. I pulled out a copy of the will I inherited from my father and a copy of the house's registry, spreading them out in front of my husband and his family. This is the proof. What? This is the will left to me by my father, and this is the registry for the house. The will makes it clear that the house belonged to my father. My husband, seeing the documents, was at a loss for words and visibly paled. He must not have expected me to have these documents. My father passed away before I married my husband. I received explanations about these documents independently from a lawyer. Yet, my husband still seemed intent on keeping up appearances in front of his family. Pointing at the documents I presented, he declared, "They're fake." I responded calmly, "If you doubt it, you can check the registry at the Registry of Deeds yourself. Then it will be clear that the house belongs to me. Even a fool like you should understand that." To the Registry of Deeds? Yes, you don't know about the Registry of Deeds? Well, it's no surprise since you've never bought a house yourself. What? He seemed lost for words, falling into silence. As my in-law's suspicious gazes turned towards my husband, I sternly told him, "There's no misunderstanding this, right? The possibility of you being the owner of this house has been completely negated. You wanted to look good in front of the family, but you've only worsened your own position. All because you wanted to show off and lied. Calm down, Jane, let's talk." "There's no need to talk. Continuing our marriage is impossible now. Leave immediately. Let's divorce, just as you wished." No, that's... My husband looked desperate and repeatedly tried to apologize. However, my resolve was firm, and I did not forgive him. My heart had completely cooled towards him, and the love I once had was gone. In this situation, my in-laws were furious, scolding my husband with shameful. In the end, my father-in-law brought the divorce papers, and they were signed by my husband on the spot. My in-laws, who handed me the divorce papers, apologized with a look of regret. "Jane, we are truly sorry for how things turned out. I'm truly sorry for making you go through this. We had no idea our son was lying. It's okay. Having the divorce papers signed saved me the trouble. Afterward, my in-laws disowned my husband and left. My sister-in-law was outraged at my husband, and things eventually erupted into a fierce argument between them. When I threatened to call the police, they hastily left the house. I then submitted the divorce papers, and ultimately the divorce was officially finalized. My husband has since been living in a short-stay apartment close to his workplace. However, the troubles didn't end there. My sister-in-law caused a scene at his place of work. Not only the divorce, but her actions further deteriorated his standing. He is now isolated at work with cold looks from those around him. How he will overcome this situation is something only time will tell. I continue to live peacefully in the house I inherited from my father with my daughter. Having more rooms available than before, our living situation feels somewhat more enriched. I had worried that Mary might feel lonely, but it seems she didn't have a very good impression of her father's behavior, so she hasn't been particularly sad and continues to live her days cheerfully. There's no chance of reconciling with David in the future. With my lovely daughter, I want to continue living happily in this house we inherited from my father. I've planned a trip to Cancun this time. Huh? A trip to Cancun. Hearing my mother-in-law say this with a smile, I harbored doubts. Despite being burdened with a huge debt and struggling to make monthly repayments, why travel abroad? Moreover, despite the fact that I send money every month, why is she going to Cancun alone? I absolutely cannot accept this. This is no joke. As I raised my voice in anger, my mother-in-law looked puzzled. Yes, this was all my husband's scheme. I was shocked by this certain truth revealed by my mother-in-law. My name is Amy. I am 35 years old, working as a regular employee at a general company, living an ordinary life. 5 years have passed since I married Kevin. We had been living peaceful days without any major problems. However, suddenly a great trial appeared before us as a couple. This series of events was triggered by the recent death of my father-in-law. My father-in-law was a man of few words but gentle in nature, always caring for us as a couple. Thanks to him, I felt naturally integrated into my husband's family. That's why I couldn't accept his death. One evening, a little after his funeral, when things had calmed down, my husband suddenly started talking at dinner. Hey, Amy, it's weird to talk about this all of a sudden, but is something wrong? Actually, I've been thinking about starting to financially support my parents' house from next month. Support? Why would you do that? Since my father passed away, I think my mother is struggling on her own. Wait a minute. I quickly interrupted my husband. Your father's passing is sad, but your sister is living in your parents' house, right? Yes, that's right, but my husband has a sister living at home. She works for a prestigious company and earns much more than my husband. My father-in-law had also worked for a well-known company until his retirement. The retirement money should be with my mother-in-law. On the other hand, we, as a couple, work for small to medium-sized companies. Our income is probably lower than the average for our age group. In such a situation, I couldn't understand why we needed to send money to my mother-in-law. Kevin, I don't think your mother and sister are struggling with money. So why send money? When I asked this, an unbelievable answer came back. Actually, it seems rich on the surface, but my mom has a considerable amount of debt. What? My mother-in-law has such a huge debt. Yes, it's hard to believe, but it's true. But you know, for some reason, she hasn't told my sister about the debt at all. That's why I brought up this idea to somehow help her. But what about your father's retirement money? Actually, it seems that most of it went to his hospital bills, surgery costs, and funeral expenses. So now, my mom is really in a tough financial situation. That's a really difficult situation. Yes, it is. That's why I know I'm asking a lot, but I really want to help her. Seeing him bow his head deeply, I was torn. My mother-in-law had helped us as a couple many times before. While I was looking for my current job, she actively took over all the household chores in my stead and often came to cook dinner. Moreover, when my husband changed jobs and we were short of living expenses, she secretly gave him money. I was always full of gratitude for her kindness. And every time I thanked her, she returned with polite words of gratitude. Thanks to her support, we had overcome many difficulties. Now that she was in trouble, I couldn't just overlook it. Considering the favors we had received so far, I strongly felt the desire to help her. With those feelings, after a little hesitation, I eventually agreed to my husband's proposal. From that day, to support my mother-in-law financially, we became stricter about saving. We were not living luxuriously in the first place, but still, we simplified our meals even more and switched to cheaper items for daily use. My husband started working late every day and came home late at night more often. And then, an incident occurred during these days. Perhaps due to accumulated fatigue, I developed a fever and fell ill. When I was preparing to go to the hospital after calling in sick to work, my husband said, "Wait a minute, are you really going to the hospital?" "Yes, I am." "Just a fever, isn't it? There's no need to go to the hospital for a mild fever, especially when we need to save money." "What?" I was surprised by his words, but managed to argue back. "But what if it's a viral fever like the flu? We have fever reducers at home, right? Just take those and rest. You'll get better. Going to the hospital is a waste of money." "That's not true. Listen to me. No matter what, don't go to the hospital. We're saving money, remember?" After hearing those words, I had no choice but to rest at home, and ended up being bedridden for 3 days. Since then, my distress towards my husband gradually began to increase. Months later, to check on my mother-in-law's well-being, we visited my husband's parents' house. As I stepped into the living room, clothes and travel bags were scattered everywhere. Were you in the middle of sorting something out?" I asked, and my mother-in-law replied with a beaming smile. "Oh, actually, I'm going to Cancun this time." "A trip to Cancun?" "Yes, that's right. Sarah said she would come with me." "Amy, how about you? Do you want to come along?" "Really?" As I was surprised, my sister-in-law, Sarah, next to me started clapping her hands with joy, saying, "That's a great idea." "Wait, what is this?" "We've been sending them money, and they're happily planning a trip to Cancun. This can't be happening." Without noticing my speechlessness, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law continued to excitedly talk about the Cancun trip. "I'm so excited. It's my first time in Cancun," my mother-in-law said, and Sarah replied, "Me too. And it's surprisingly affordable this time of year." "Exactly, Amy. Don't worry. If you can come with us, we'll cover the travel expenses." My mother-in-law continued, "Really, we've been so grateful to you ever since Kevin got married," added Sarah. Unaware of my feelings, they were engrossed in their conversation. Finally reaching my limit, I confronted my smiling mother-in-law and sister-in-law, who were inviting me to the trip. "Stop joking. A trip abroad. What are you really thinking?" I raised my voice. "What?" Startled by my sudden reproach, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law froze with their mouths open. Even though they were shaken, they tried to calm me down. "Amy, what's wrong? Did we say something odd? Maybe you don't like traveling? Did we invite you too forcefully?" "It's not about that. How can you even think of inviting me on a trip? Do you understand our situation?" "Amy, calm down. What caused you to be so angry?" "Really, if you have the means to go on a trip, I'd rather you pay off your debts first." "What debts?" I let all my feelings out towards them. "We can hardly save money, and even when I'm sick, we can't afford to go to the hospital, yet we prioritize sending you money. And yet, how can you calmly plan a trip abroad? Please consider our situation a little." After pouring out all my emotions, I noticed tears streaming down my cheeks. Whether it was anger, sadness, or both, I wasn't sure. However, I was certain that the frugal lifestyle until now had been more painful than I thought. While crying, I collapsed on the spot. Seeing this, my husband rushed over in surprise. "Hey, you! What are you saying to my mom?" But, that's enough. We're going home." Kevin tried to pull me up forcefully. At that moment, my mother-in-law spoke up quietly. "Wait a minute. What debts are you talking about?" "What?" But didn't you have a huge debt? Surprised by my response, my mother-in-law's expression changed. There's no such thing. There's still my husband's pension and inheritance left. And I wouldn't be able to go on an overseas trip if I had debts. What? But in that instant, I realized the full picture of the situation. Anger welled up inside me. The reason why my husband's income didn't increase despite his daily overtime, why I was the only one getting thinner and sick, despite the strict savings, and why my usually polite mother-in-law never thanked us for the money we sent. Then, I faced a shocking truth. The need for sending money, as my husband had been saying, was actually a fabrication. There was never a need to send them money. I could have gone to the doctor immediately when I got sick. I would have realized it if I had thought about it a bit more. Realizing this made the pointlessness of our past frugal life evident. But in our financially tight life, it had been hard to make a calm judgment. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law on the scene seemed to realize the truth behind my husband's words. They looked at Kevin with a doubtful gaze. "Kevin, what's the meaning of this? Amy says she was sending money because you had debts. What's all this about?" Kevin was clearly looking for an excuse. "No, it's different. Actually, how is it different? Explain it clearly. Make us understand. Talk properly." Well, I could see that he was still trying to control the situation. My love for him had completely faded. I confronted my confused husband directly. "What's all this about? There were no debts for your mother or sister. Where did all the money I gave you every month go?" He began to mumble his words. "Well, don't lie now. Tell me everything." The truth he revealed was something I found hard to accept. Actually, I was invited by a colleague and ended up going to nightclubs. "You've been going to a nightclub?" "Yeah, well, how should I put it? I just got carried away without realizing it. I can't believe it. Going to such places when it hasn't been long since your father passed away. And that was around the time you started talking about sending money, right? I'm sorry, really sorry. I just went there for a bit of a change of pace. I didn't think it was a big deal. Such an excuse can't be accepted. How can you behave so irresponsibly? Lying about sending money and using my hard-earned money for going to nightclubs. I can never forgive that. No, it's not like that. I never meant to hurt you, Amy. I just got a bit carried away, that's all. I really regret it." As I shouted, my husband tried to appease me, piling up lies. But trust once lost, even between husband and wife, is not easily regained. His impromptu lies and insincere attitude completely extinguished my love for him. No matter how long his apologies continued, I couldn't forgive him in my heart. I couldn't bear it anymore. I felt it was impossible to continue living with someone who lied to satisfy his own desires. With despair welling up from the depths of my heart, I told my husband my final words. "I'm fed up. Saying I didn't intend to hurt you is no joke at all. Not only did you deceive me with lies, but how much do you need to belittle me? While I had a fever, you forced me to save money and enjoyed yourself in nightclubs? Unbelievable." Sarah's voice of surprise echoed in the background as I continued indignantly. "I've been saving hard for your dear mother. Food, daily necessities, clothing. I've been enduring it all. Do you understand that effort? I can't even think of you as a family anymore. Such a scumbag should just go to hell. Just wait. I only went to nightclubs. Just that? The drinks you enjoyed with the money saved while I was sick must have tasted great. No, it was for work. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm leaving." "Wait, Amy, please, I need you." "What? Now? Have as much fun as you want in the nightclubs and see how it feels. Don't say that. By the way, I want all the money I gave you as support back. Make sure you pay it all back." Realizing the situation, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law hurriedly showed a posture of apology. "Amy, I'm really sorry. I can't believe my foolish son did such a thing. It's truly shameful. Because of my thoughtless brother. Mother, Sarah, please don't apologize. It's not your fault. No, we have a responsibility too. We want to make amends somehow. Amy, I'm so sorry too. My brother has caused such trouble. Don't worry about it. But I've decided to divorce. I'm truly grateful to both of you, but please let me say goodbye. They nodded while shedding tears. Mother, Sarah, thank you for everything until now. At that moment, my husband called out to me with a pained voice. He knelt on the spot and continued to make excuses. Amy, please forgive me. I really regret what I've done until now. Before I could react, Sarah moved first and slapped my husband across the face. As he stood there stunned with a swollen cheek, Sarah looked down at him and said, I can't believe you would do something so terrible. How much more did you need to torment Amy? Sarah, lying to Amy to take the money meant for supporting the family, not allowing her to go to the hospital, and on top of that, spending that money at nightclubs. How can you be so heartless? I'm ashamed to be your sister. Wait, just hear me out. What's the point now? The fact that you've been forcing Amy to save and suffer for these past few months is true, isn't it? Mom and I will never forgive you. Never associate with us again. Do you understand? Don't ever show your face to us again. My sister-in-law, holding back tears, forcibly dragged my husband out and threw him outside. She locked the door and cut off all communication with my husband. No matter how much he pleaded at the entrance, the door was not opened. Amy, I'm really sorry. There's not much I can say now, but forget about that man and find happiness. With those words, I was hugged tightly by my sister-in-law. After expressing my gratitude, I left my in-laws' house. Then, I moved out of the house where I lived with my husband and found a new place near my workplace. Since I was already employed permanently, I didn't face much difficulty in living even after the divorce. I consulted a lawyer I knew to proceed with the divorce. It was clear that my husband was at fault, and the divorce was quickly finalized. I claimed the money he fraudulently took from me as support and the resulting compensation. I made sure to collect the maximum amount. He ended up having to pay the compensation in a lump sum and is now living days incomparably harder than before. I hear he is consumed with endless overtime and working through the night. Naturally, he no longer has time to frequent the nightclubs he used to enjoy. Now, he's just an existence who works. After the divorce, I received several messages from my ex-husband. I was wrong, forgive me. I'm not going to nightclubs anymore. I don't want to get back together. I'm just really in trouble. Can you lend me some money? Please, you're the only one I can rely on. In the end, it's all about money. I feel nothing but pity for him. Now that all the payments are finished, I'm thinking of blocking his contact. Meanwhile, I still keep in touch with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. They worry about me and have been in regular contact even after the divorce. Just the other day, seeing me having regained my spirits, my mother-in-law showed tears. Amy, I'm so happy to see you doing well. Mother, don't worry about me. I can live on my own strength. I always thought you'd be okay, Amy. But remember, you can always rely on me and Sarah if you need anything. Thank you so much. Let's go to Cancun together next time, just the three of us. Of course, I'm looking forward to it. If it weren't for the support of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, I couldn't have overcome the trial of divorce. Since they always wish for my happiness, I vow to live my life with all my strength.